There's something beautifully primal about a s'more. Burnt gelatinous sugar, melting chocolate, smashed between two graham crackers, and that brief bit of chaos before it all collapses in your hands. It's childhood nostalgia, it's comfort, and it's a reminder of everything that's good about being alive. Today we're talking about the graham cracker. And the lamest snack in your grandma's cabinet was never meant to make you feel good. In fact, it was invented to stop you from feeling anything at all. Meet Sylvester Graham. Born in 1794 in Connecticut, Graham came screaming into a world that didn't particularly need another preacher. That's exactly what we got. His father was 72 when Sylvester was born and, to no surprise, didn't stick around long and died shortly thereafter. His mother was mentally ill and was institutionalized. During this time, he briefly worked in a tavern owned by one of those relatives and was witness to the substance abuse and debauchery that would take place around him. And this would also feed into his later beliefs. Eventually, he trained for the ministry. It was the family trait of moral panic after all, but Sylvester had ideas, big, puritanical, world-fixing ideas. He believed that food wasn't just sustenance, it was morality made edible, and that what you put in your mouth determined the state of your soul. Graham's philosophy spread like wildfire amongst America's anxious middle class, and by the 1830s he was preaching to packed halls, 2,000 people a night, warning that spicy food and masturbation caused blindness and insanity. He wasn't just preaching about food. He was attacking an entire way of life. And in the 1830s, people didn't want to hear that their morning coffee was a sin, or that their nightly roast beef was going to lead them into being lustful degenerates. And definitely not that the local butchers, bakers, and brewers were basically pushing moral poison. But that's exactly what Graham said. Loudly, often, and with that kind of evangelical fire that's usually reserved for end-time prophecies.
This city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion. Old Testament, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Enough! I get the point.
It's even well documented that on multiple occasions, his speeches caused full-out riots, like actual blood-in-the-street riots. In Providence, Rhode Island in 1833, and again in Portland, Maine in June in 1834, his appearances were disrupted and people pelted rocks through church windows.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Portland newspapers and historians paint the 1834 Temple Street disturbance as a response to his melding of vegetarian reform and social equality. His super outlandish ideas of treating men and women as equals was crazy talk in 1834. And so Graham toured up and down the East Coast, thundering about the evils of white bread, alcohol, tobacco, and self-abuse. And his message hit hard in the newly industrialized cities of Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, where the diet of the average worker was mostly meat, beer, and stress. And I think that anyone who's ever cooked for a living absolutely understands that. In 1837, when Graham went to give a lecture in Boston, the local butchers and bakers absolutely lost it. They saw him as a threat, not just to their profits, but to their dignity. Imagine some self-righteous rolling into town and telling everyone that your life's work was a sin. You'd be pissed too. They stormed one of his events, smashing windows and threatening to drag him into the street. The riot got so intense that Graham had to be rescued by his followers and hid in a boarding house until things cooled down. And speaking of those Grammite boarding houses, let's talk about those. His followers called themselves Grammites, and they were basically the OG wellness cult. Seriously, these guys lived in segregated boarding houses, surviving on bland bread, cold baths, and sexual repression. They banned coffee, alcohol, and, God help them, condiments. These places were the prototype for every clean eating retreat and detox spa that we have today, except with more shame and less avocado. But as America industrialized, so did its appetite. People wanted sugar, butter, seasoning, all the things that Graham warned would damn them, and his followers dwindled. But his ideas, they stuck around, absorbed into America's ever-growing obsession with purity, health, and self-control. After Graham died in 1851, presumably of boredom, actually it was complications from an opium enema. Yeah. Anyway, his followers kept baking. Graham flour, Graham bread, and of course, Graham crackers. His Graham flour outlived him, and by the 19th century it was a marketing gold mine. Graham's whole wheat cracker, his symbol of abstinence and purity, was then marketed to the sluttiest demographic on earth. the American consumer. The National Biscuit Company, what we now know as Nabisco, saw a marketing opportunity in the preacher's name. The name Graham still carried that wholesome moral glow. It sounded healthy, trustworthy, and good for the kids, and so they kept the name and threw out the ideology. The new and improved graham cracker was sweeter, softer, and baked for pleasure, not for purity. It was a snack that pretended to be virtuous while quietly feeding into America's sugar addiction. If Sylvester Graham could have seen what happened to his bread, he would have had a stroke. His anti-sin sermon had become a dessert. His gospel of restraint turned into a shelf-stable comfort food. And the irony of it all? It sold because it still sounded like salvation. Nabisco made millions, turning the preacher's war on pleasure into a brand identity, with words like wholesome, natural, and pure. The very same words that Graham had used to shame people for wanting anything at all. Graham's whole clean living through diet thing didn't die with him, it just evolved. His ideas inspired Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, the man who gave us cornflakes, another disciple of the purity through food gospel. He loved Graham's ideas, so much so that he fed patients at the Battle Creek Sanitarium bland cereal to cure them of their urges. He actually did some pretty horrific stuff by today's standards, and if you want to see me do a video on Kellogg or Nabisco, drop a comment below and let me know. Between Graham and Kellogg, we built a whole wellness culture rooted in shame. Every clean eating trend, every detox, every influencer selling you some bland beige virtue, that's Graham's ghost. And despite all of this, we still made it to the 21st century with both and Taco Bell. Miracles do happen. It is a little ironic then, isn't it, that a snack born from the fear of desire now stars in one of the messiest, stickiest, most sensual things that you can eat with your hands. The graham cracker survived, not as a sermon, but as a symbol of everything its creator wanted to destroy, and you can't write irony that good. The graham cracker was invented for purity. Instead, we got s'mores, which is the most American transformation imaginable, turning abstinence into corporate profits.
You're killing me, Smalls. These are s'more stuff. Okay, pay attention. First, you take the graham. You stick the chocolate on the graham. Then, you roast the mallow. When the mallow's flaming, you stick it on the chocolate. Then, you cover it with the other end.
If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and if you need even more, my friends and I host a podcast where we talk about all things service industry and get to know the actual people who keep it moving forward. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay salty, my friends. I'll see you next time.